in the bottom right-hand corner from Prime. He is the blue Protoss player. Managed to take that last game to even things up. He is Classic. Maybe a little bit more hipster in the top right-hand corner. His opponent from the team Evil Geniuses in the red as the Terran player. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thorzane.
Yeah, Spoon Terran coming in now, and we'll see what he's able to do here on Entomb Valley. Kind of an interesting map choice from him too, and I just wonder what it means from him. Thorzane, the kind of player who likes to eke out every sort of macro advantage that he can. Frequently will build his structures actually directly inside of his base, supply depot in his mineral line, barracks right next to his command center, and usually when he's walling off, he wants to do something that his opponent won't be able to pick up on. So I wonder what his approach is going to be.
That actually, just scares me because I know I've said it a lot, man. When I want to know timings, Thorzane's the guy I study. When I want to know timings that Terran can do against me, because you always want to prepare for the worst case scenario. So like, hey, when can combat shields actually hit? I see a lot of pro Terrans, they hit around 8:10, but then you look at Thorzane's combat shield timing, and actually it's like 8:04. Like, he's just so efficient with everything. And so, you want to make sure that anything you do to prepare for something is always best case scenario. Thorzane, guys, so crisp, so clean, and just good with, honestly, plotting. Like, I'd be scared if this guy ever wanted to take over the world.
Yeah, and if you'll notice what that probe just did, too. Yeah, Thorzane taking over the world. I think he's too mannered for it, though.
Definitely true, actually.
Well, he's got to make sure that the supply depot doesn't get killed, of course. I've seen those games before, and those are embarrassing. When you build that, you start that supply depot just barely to stop the probe from getting into your base, and you end up losing it because it doesn't have enough health.
Yeah, you run into that situation where you don't want to cancel it because you're like, my SCV should get there in time, and it gets down to like the last quarter of a second, and you can't tell, and then it gets killed, and you're just like, ugh.
But if you notice what that probe did, though, Classic was able to pick up very early that this was a full wall off, because the probe actually ran up all the way here, because pathing, whenever that became a full wall with that little addition of a mini supply depot off to the side, it tried to path up and around to the right here, because it can't actually get in. So he actually had to reverse course and cause it to run up there. So he knew his opponent was in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah, that's pretty smart, because I assume if you click on the left-hand side of the main, then the probe will try to get as far to the left as it can. If you click on the right-hand side, it would still take the same route going up that second ramp. So it's a great point.
Well, this engineering bay is being constructed. This is a trademark of Thorzane's play. He loves doing this. Of course, the engineering bay is used for players who are newer to the game because it accumulates hit points faster than any structure that he can build at this stage of the game. Only 35-second build time, and it has 850 hit points, so it's actually quite annoying to deal with.
Yeah, I always wondered why Protosses didn't use cyber cores when I was like new to StarCraft. I was like, why don't I use a cyber core to block me when that gateway block was really popular, or the pylon, then the gateway? And then I realized it was because their gateways actually weren't finished.
Yeah, you can't build a cybernetics core then, so... well, and what was doubly annoying for Classic through this, too, is he's forced to make additional things right now that he doesn't want to. He bypassed a Zealot at the beginning of this game. Whenever you build that Zealot, a lot of times you do want to bypass it for very specific reasons, but in this specific case, it actually would have been nice because it could have cleaved away at that engineering bay a little bit quicker.
Yeah. At this point, Nexus has gone down, but that's actually, you would get the engineering bay done a little faster in that situation. Command center is completed. We'll see if Thorzane behind this, he's got one gas down, second as well.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be ramping up into something here. Now, as you said, Kev, with the wall off, it lends maybe that he's got a sneaky little play going on here in a second. We'll have to keep an eye and see what it is as the tech lab is 3/4 of the way done.
Could also just want to keep his opponent defensive and throw him off, too. It's very nice to... I would say it's very nice to hide what you're doing. Thorzane, a player who loves to put his command centers on the low ground if he can, because you do eke out that little bit incremental economic advantage through it, being able to rally your your SCVs in a little bit quicker, things like that. But this was maybe just to keep his opponent a little bit off guard. And indeed, if you see, Classic had to produce a couple extra units, made an earlier couple of sentries. The Nexus ended up being a little bit delayed, and then threw down a second and third gateways on timing that thought he was maybe a little bit under pressure.
Yeah, if we see the Robo here in a second, though, this could be the same build that we saw from him. Oh, excuse me. You know what? That was actually Creator's opening. Here's the Twilight Council, in fact, from Classic. Now, last game he did opt to go for those Dark Templars. Thorzane, I would fear going DT against. As I said, his builds are just so crisp, and here's his engineering bay already completed.
I could see something like a Blink Stalker, though, off of this for a little while. I mean, it is potential to try and jump in there and try and do some damage. Oh, actually, just going after that +1 armor, too. So we may see something like we saw in game number 1, where it was, very quick up into that charge lot and storm build.
Armor just so beneficial to those zealots with that 100 hit points as opposed to the lesser amount of armor. I mean, you see a unit like a Stalker, they have more of the shield, but really, really helps in that charge lot Archon composition. It doesn't help the Archons so much, but...
Well, no, but it helps the charge lots, and that's what's important, because that's what's taking all the damage.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm sure people who are regular to StarCraft have heard this 1,000 times before, but between the Zealot's natural tankiness, the Guardian Shield's +2 protection against range attacks, and the +1 armor you get on top of that, unupgraded Marines do incredibly little damage against Zealots.
Yeah, that's actually, it's so true. And when the Zealots have +1 armor, it's just like, yeah, okay. At this point, though, we do have combat shields. We've got Stim +1. A lot of timing's getting ready to wrap up here in a moment for Thorzane, who's got a Starport and a Reactor finishing up as well. So we could see some pretty quick drops here. Stim's completed, and actually, this is really pretty because he's gonna have. He's got Stim. He's gonna have +1 finished by the point if he goes for the quick drops here. By the time he's dropping them, and Stim with +1. Oh my goodness, the units just melt.
All right, well, but he will have to contend against a pretty strong charge lot Storm or Archon army, too. So, and that's, certainly can be quite powerful. There was a lot of gas that was saved up. Some of it was just expended. I'm not sure on what. There we go. Goes into Storm. And did he queue up another +1 or something like that with that? No, he did not. No charge on the way either. Of course, he needs, 200 gas for that? Yes.
We'll see if he starts that in just a second. Marines are going to catch a Stalker out here. That was a big Stim, though.
3 Stims.
Yeah, and quite a quantity of Marines with it, too. But did manage to pick it off. We'll now be heading around the side of the map. Should be able to get this pylon as well. And then we'll see if he decides... Oh, he's going to show the Medivacs, though. If we click on that pylon, shows the Medivacs. And that lets Classic know, that he may have to... we'll see if he shuffles some forces around here in a second in order to deal with the possibility of drops.
Yeah, he's got nothing up to the right. There we go. One Stalker just warping in there to deal with that factory. Looks like Thorzane may be thinking about just kind of bull rushing his way up the front. Of course, we have a photon cannon there, and the sustained damage that continues to do is quite nice. 3 sentries with absolute full energy, too. And no High Templar, I believe, yet, but Storm... Okay, there we go, yes. And they actually have quite a bit of energy, so as soon as the Storm finishes up, that's going to be a big concern for Thorzane. Yeah,
Thorzane no longer wants to push here. As we close in on the 11-minute mark, Storm a definite possibility. See if he decides to throw down a scan and see just how much energy these High Templar do have. Oh, he's going to go for it. And we'll see if the Storms do appear.
Wow,
of course, Thorzane doesn't know he has them yet.
Yeah, Stims up everything, gets in there, kills 2 Zealots and just 1 Probe. I don't think he actually lost any units in return, so pretty good control on his part. He's got his Ghosts making their way out. He knows that's what he's going to have to deal with. It's going to be Charge Lot Archon for now. So all his upgrades are hitting at about the right time, and he's going up to a 3rd base. Things are actually looking pretty good for Thorzane at the moment, even though Classic has been able to... amass a pretty decent army. His opponent has built basically the direct counter.
Yeah, it's honestly, I mean, at this point, without Ghost Tech, you can't face off against an opponent who has Storm. Luckily, Thorzane popped up there for a second or two, but Classic, he did not have the High Templar in position. But now he's ready for it. Does manage to kill that Marauder. He's doing a nice little cute harass here with these Zealots. Going to pull the forces of Thorzane back home. And take a look. Now Classic can move out onto the battlefield. And if this is, if pushing out is one of the problems you guys encounter, like, maybe in the earlier leagues of StarCraft, this is a real basic maneuver that can really boost your play. Whenever you do any harass, move out, because your opponent's going to overreact almost every time.
Yeah, that map control is very important at this stage of the game. Big whiff with a Storm there. Of course, he's got enough energy to go around, don't get me wrong. I love the Marauders ducking in and getting off 1 concussive shell round to slow down 1 Templar. Of course, 2 shots from Marauders, not enough to do the damage he needs. Oh, these destructible rocks aren't down, which means he is going to be able to engage on the high ground. But look at the EMPs in the middle of those forces. There were so many units that had energy available that it couldn't catch them all. It would be very difficult to be able to do that. But that's still enough to completely turn this army around.
There is, I think, 1 Storm available. There may be 2. But yeah, huge blows there, and of course the shields were gone too, but Thorzane opted to not go for it quite in that position. Zealot's going to easily kill these units.
Yeah. Ran out to check the Zelnaga Tower. Didn't really get a whole lot done with it. Let's take a look at where upgrades are at. Looks like we have 1-3 coming up now for Classic Prime. So he's got 2 armor upgrades to his opponent's 1-1. 2-2 actually just now on the way. Plus 2 weapons a little bit farther along, but still has a significant time before it finishes.
This pylon reconstructed by Classic will now be taken out again. Very responsible of him to be rebuilding that. We'll see if he opts to do it again here in a minute or two. And there's another warp in the top left. We'll see what these zealots can get done. I think they're going to get scouted pretty quickly, though.
Oh, yeah, immediately. So Classic's going to kill these 2 Marines. He should be able to get 1 more Zealot charge here in a second. No, actually,
on track team.
The rest of the units do catch up. Yeah, very nice job there. Unfortunately, using performance-enhancing drugs, and that does go against most of the established governing bodies' rules.
They have to find out about it, right? That Marine, I mean, I don't see a needle in his hand. It's a gun. I guess you can't really have that if you're running track
There's
either.
Literally a giant image of a needle that appears above his head, though. Like, that would seem to me a dead giveaway. But
I mean, you'd kind of be a little overpowered if you could just...
Yeah.
It's the Gauss rifle?
Yes.
I guess it'd be really... I don't know how they run so fast with that thing. They're really, really big. Snipes going down for Thorzane, though. He's going to manage to pick off a couple of High Templar there. And now it seems like he's feeling pretty brash, pretty bold, feeling pretty confident here, Kevin, because before we saw after he landed those EMPs, he didn't want to go, and now he's looking ready to fight.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident for him, too. Throw some EMPs down on top of most of the forces. Catches all but 1 of the Templar. There's still 1 left.
Wow.
But then he catches it with the second one. There are no storms remaining. This is purely Archons for all of the AoE in this army, and it looks like Thorzane is actually just going to push in right now.
But he's not kiting at all. He is taking all the shots from these zealots. Now begins to kite a little bit. Archon's finishing up, definitely taking heavy damage. Storm does go down. Thorzane's still ahead by 50 supply, though, because he did kill a lot, and those High Templar just were completely useless in that fight.
Don't forget the one problem for this build for Protoss players, of course, is you don't have the threat of Colossi, so there's no need to make Vikings. And 8 medevacs overhead when none of them have had any feedbacks dropped on them. That's a very, very powerful healing force.
Well, continuing to kite and do a little bit of damage to Thorzane. That storm's going to land, but the medevacs have a lot of energy, so he just needs to pull back for a second here, heal up, regroup, allows reinforcements to stream in, and he'll be able to push in right again immediately.
All right. Well, we'll see if Thorzane wants to make that move again. He's continuing to stream huge rallies of units across the map. I mean, he's gone so far ahead in supply now. He's traded cost efficiently pretty much every time. Tries to throw down a snipe, can't get it. Looks like the used Templar ends up making an Archon there. But there's not that much energy left over on these Templar. I don't think there's a single storm available. Now, there is a Colossus, and that is going to necessitate the switch into Vikings, but Thorzane was already doing that.
Yeah, Thorzane with some really good foresight here. Now, the Sneaky Nexus on the left, you know, it's going to give an opportunity to Classic. We'll see if it can be enough to bring him back.
Okay, well, Thorzane's going to try and push in right now. Of course, this Colossus has already racked up 4 kills sitting at the top of the ramp here, but look at the way the army just melted. The sheer damage output from Thorzane's force is enough to push this completely back. He even lands an EMP on the 2 Templar that were trying to reinforce. Everything goes down. It looks like Thorzane, ladies and gentlemen, is going to take a very quick game here. Nice job. It looks like he'll give PG the advantage once again.
Gavin, wrap your neck around your rep, Cherie, and we'll do the rest. Thorzane nomming up those units of Classic, and he's going to throw down the GG, folks.
GG indeed. So Thorzane gives Evil Geniuses a 3-2 advantage here in this best of 9. Don't forget, guys, EG is actually 1-1 in their group right now. With this win, they would go to 2-1, and that would pretty close to guarantee them a spot in the playoffs.
And they are playing like they deserve it. Look at these guys. I mean, Thorzane with a really nice victory there over Classic. I mean, he just looked ahead the majority of that game, and the whole thing played absolutely beautifully. My question is, who's Prime going to bring out next?
Well, it's a pretty good player. It's a Terran player, Marine King.
Oh, okay.
You may have heard of him.
Yeah, I know the guy.
It is Marine King, guys.
He likes apple pie or something.
Yes. Marine King Prime is coming in next. Fantastic Terran player. Waiting for him to have his next big push through, because I think he's one of the players that's going to have it. He'll always be in consideration for one of the better players out there. So Marine King's coming in next. It's going to be a TVT. We're running to a commercial break, and when we get back, it's game number 6.